So the former All Blacks coach Steve Hansen has said a few things in the press in the last couple of days. It's probably upset a few people, so I'm going to talk about it in this video. Hey, g'day everyone, welcome to the channel Inside Rugby here with Mark from beautiful Cancun in Mexico. And today we're talking about Steve Hansen, yes, the ex-All Blacks coach, saying a few things in the press that probably upset a few people. So let's get into it. I'll give you my view on it. Now, first of all, Hansen's come out and said that he feels that the All Blacks were robbed in the 2023 Rugby World Cup and that they should have won that particular competition. Well, the fact is they didn't. South Africa won, and no matter what Steve Hansen thinks, that's the way the game played out. Now, we can all go back as rugby fans and go through probably every single game of rugby that's ever been played and pull out all the instances where we thought the referee made a poor decision on one side or the other. So that goes for the 2023 final of the Rugby World Cup as well, doesn't it? But at the end of the day, the All Blacks didn't win that game, and South Africa deservedly, I think, won that particular tournament. Now, I think Hansen's comments have come at a very interesting time, and let me tell you why I think that. First of all, he's currently coaching in Japan, yes, the Toyota team that he coaches, and he's just recruited an old mate of his, someone called Ian Foster. Yes, they used to work together, of course, as the All Black coaching team before Foster took over from Steve Hansen. So it's rather funny that we see this coming out now, because I'm sure the two have been having a few talks together, and that probably came up in the discussion, how Foster wasn't successful in getting the All Blacks over the finish line in that 2023 Rugby World Cup. Probably stirred up Steve Hansen a bit and thought he had to make a comment in front of the press. So another thing Hansen talked about in that particular interview was around the announcement of Scott Robertson being appointed as the All Black head coach. And I've said it here on this show before that I thought it was pretty unjust that Robertson was appointed back in March of 2023 while Ian Foster and his team was getting ready for the Rugby World Cup in France. So Steve Hansen came out and also made mention of that, saying that it was a pretty underlying thing of New Zealand rugby to do that to Scott Robertson and also to Ian Foster, and I couldn't agree more on that one. I thought it was despicable of New Zealand rugby to do that at the time. Steve Hansen also went on to say that he feels that Scott Robertson learnt a lot from his new position as head coach of the All Blacks this year, and hopefully he'll be taking a lot of those lessons into 2025. Maybe realizing, he said, that coaching the New Zealand All Blacks is not as easy as it once appears, and particularly when you're sitting in Super Rugby coaching a team very successfully there. So a bit of a dig from Steve Hansen, I think, towards Scott Robertson about how difficult it is coaching the All Blacks, particularly with the New Zealand public's impression and pressure and everything else that goes on you, and coming in to change the New Zealand All Blacks. Hansen went on to say that also a lot of the players in that team were the foundation of the team that Ian Foster had, and he particularly mentioned the front row, and that could be said to be true in terms of Hansen's interpretation, that the New Zealand front row, I think, performed very well throughout 2024. My interpretation of that also was that I think Steve Hansen was having a bit of a dig at Scott Robertson with the lack of experimentation that was going on in the All Blacks. He made reference a couple of times during the interview that the stable of players was pretty much the same and that they were all good rugby players. But he didn't go as far as actually saying that we need to see new blood in the All Blacks team, as I have been crying out for throughout 2024. So there you go. Steve Hansen has come out of hibernation in terms of talking to the press about New Zealand rugby issues. He's come out swinging and saying that the All Blacks got robbed in the Rugby World Cup final. He's also appointed Ian Foster as his assistant coach in the Toyota team in the Japanese League, and those two guys will be reunited again in that competition. So it'll be interesting to see how that team particularly performs under Steve Hansen and Ian Foster. Now, I said the timing was interesting. Well, the All Blacks have put out their schedule on who they're going to play when next year, and they're going to play South Africa at Eden Park, and that's going to be a fantastic game. And we'll have to see. We've got New Zealand playing against France in New Zealand next year. We've got 2 test matches against the Springboks, and then at the end of the year We've got the Wallabies as well, so it's going to be a bumper season for All Black Rugby in New Zealand next year. Buy your tickets now, get out there and get into supporting the New Zealand All Blacks. And for all the South Africans, tell me, are you going to be the team that takes down the All Blacks at Eden Park? And I think there's only 2 players in the team that have ever played there before, and I think Etzebeth is one. I'm not too sure who the other one is, but I'm sure you can let me know in the comments. So good timing by Steve Hansen. As always, he's come out with a bit of controversy as we head towards Christmas to give all us rugby fans something to talk about. So let me know in the comments what you think of Steve Hansen's latest outrage in front of the press, and I'd be interested to read all of those. I probably know what's incoming, so don't surprise me too much. Now I'm going to be back again soon with some thoughts around the Six Nations as we get closer to Christmas. Got my pre-Christmas review on what's going to happen, I think, in the Six Nations next year, so stay tuned for that one. Now, if you are enjoying my content here on Inside Rugby with Mark, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Become part of our global rugby family, because in 2025 I'm going to be covering all the significant international test matches across the world, giving you my previews and reviews and thoughts around all those games. And we're going to kick off with the Six Nations, of course, early in the new year, so make sure you stick around for that. Thank you, Steve Hansen, for giving us YouTubers another topic to talk about with international rugby. It's very well appreciated. And to everybody else out there who's a rugby fan, make sure you stay well and stay safe. I'll see you again right here on Inside Rugby with Mark in the not too distant future. Until then, I'll say adios from beautiful Cancun in Mexico. See you all again soon. Bye-bye.